powered by Riverside.
Hello, everyone. Whether you're changing diapers, outside grilling, mowing the lawn, or laying on the couch, letting the kids run amok, welcome to the Young Dad Podcast. I'm your host, Jay, and today I have an incredible guest with me, Tyson. Tyson, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me. It's an honor. Thank you very much.
Of course, man. Happy to have you. Before we get too far into it, just right here at the top, a little bit of the business, as they say. I got to clean house, do some housekeeping real quick. Where to start? So many amazing things. Thank you for listening. While you're here at the top, go like, follow, subscribe, leave 5 stars, do all the things that you can to support the podcast. That doesn't cost you anything. And it's just a nice gesture of your heart and your thumbs to do so. The next little thing here I want to shout out today's opening sponsor of the podcast, Forefathers Apparel. Forefathers, if you've heard me talk about them before, you're a longtime listener of the show. We've been working together for more than a year at this point. Also, Forefathers, you've seen me post about them. You've seen me talk about them. I love this brand. I love these polos. I love these clothes. What Forefathers is, if you haven't heard and you're new to the show, well, they set out to create dad clothing that is above and beyond so that it can keep up with dads who go above and beyond, like yours truly. Their team of dad designers set out to build performance clothing because there wasn't an existing line that represented dads. Everything is kind of generic, boring, kind of stuff. In order to fit the dad lifestyle, they took our favorite dadisms, 5 o'clock somewhere, mowing the lawn, mow glow, lawn or meat sweat, donuts with dad, gone fishing, so many more, movie night, so many more. I mean, I have 10 polos. There's more to collect still. And they printed them on the best performing materials and on materials to fit the dad bod. With the code YoungDad, you save 20% on your entire purchase and you help out the podcast tremendously. So, without further ado, that's enough of the business, as they say in the industry. Let's jump in here, Tyson. I like to start with a icebreaker question of sorts to get us started. Yeah. And no, it's not the pineapple on pizza because we agree on that. So, what it is, though, is because I'm inspired by the artwork behind you on the wall. What is your spirit animal?
Spirit animal? I don't know. I love lions, as you can tell. I love lions. I think
I have no idea.
They're phenomenal leaders. Yeah, sure. I'll be a lion per se.
I like it. I'm a turtle, but not any kind of turtle. Okay, like I literally have like turtles hanging up around my house. I have these little turtle like wood figures. It's very dusty. He needs to be cleaned. I have a little turtle good luck charm in my bag that I carry with me. Like I love turtles, but the turtle that I love the most is the turtles from Finding Nemo.
Yes,
those kind of sea turtles. Like that's the kind of turtle Crush. He's the turtle I aspire to be. The dad I aspire to be. Chillness, mellowness, to go with the flow.
Yes,
the radicalness, all of that is Crush. So absolutely love the turtles from Finding Nemo. So he's my spirit animal. So, but yeah, well, we broke the ice now. Didn't take a fat penguin today. So tell us a little bit about you, Tyson, what you do, your platform, and things that you set out to accomplish.
What I do is I like to try and help people go from zero to like zero, as in I've never started an online business. I've thought about it, but I haven't tried, or I've tried a lot and I haven't followed through with it. I take people from there and I funnel them all the way through to where they feel confident enough to start their own business or market someone else's business. So I like to try and help people how to brand themselves and also brand their business or someone else's business in general. So through courses, through mentorship, that's what I do as far as trying to help people. That's the business side. The other side is I've been involved with youth ministry the past 9 years. Extremely rewarding, helping people, even parents. I know it's youth ministry, it's mostly kids, but you get to know mom and dad in the process and asking questions. How's my son doing? How's my daughter doing? All these things. And in a world where it's very challenging nowadays, It's very rewarding to be a part of, to watch a kid go from 14, 15 years old and walk with them till they're 22, 23 years old and be at their wedding, or help them through some lower moments and see them win later on. It's a phenomenal process to be a part of.
Absolutely. Very rewarding at the same time. How did you end up getting into youth ministry? How did that become kind of part of what you've done the last 9 years and become an integral part of what you do?
I got into youth ministry really strictly just so I can hang out with my cousins more often. At the time, I think I was 19 years old. I had just done 2 years of university, and I was kind of all over the place. I wasn't really in tune with what the Holy Spirit was saying to my life, and I didn't have much of a relationship with God in general, and even with my family. So I thought diving into youth ministry would kind of help clean my life up, but also I got to be around my family more often. And it kind of totally switched. It went from, I'm here for a lot more than just hang out with my cousins. I actually have a place in these kids' lives, and it kept me on my toes. It humbled me, that's for sure. It's funny how innocent kids can ask you questions that just rock your world. And then from there on, I just kept volunteering, kept being a part of it. I helped I was a youth pastor for about a year, and then they got a new pastor, he's phenomenal. And I didn't want to take on that position more. I wanted to compliment him in that process, and it's been an amazing journey.
That's awesome. You mentioned some of those kids that they ask you questions that kind of blow you away. Please do tell.
Well, how open can I be?
As open as you're allowed to be.
Yeah. Well, I remember things like we were assigned, but we weren't really assigned small groups. So I had a group of boys from grade 8 to grade 12, and I'd walk through that whole process. But then you're friends with them for years after. And I remember in grade 8, the grade 8 boys that I had there too, they were struggling with confidence and life decisions and all that stuff, or how to talk to girls in general. And I remember one of them saying, he was so nervous, so quiet. It's like, I don't know how to talk to girls. I'm like, well, just go talk to them, get to know them. And it was like 6 months later, he came up to me, he's like, Tyson, I did it. What'd you do? And he goes, I went and talked to this girl, and we actually went to math class, and then we started doing some math together. I'm hanging out with her afterwards. We're gonna go watch a football game. I'm like, whoa, good for you. And ever since then, it was just like a little tweak. He's one of the most confident guys I've ever met in my life now. He's 22 years old now, and it's pretty cool to see. But it started just a little bit. It was pretty cute though.
That's cute. That's adorable. That's adorable. Look at him. I mean, that's really all it takes, I had working in ministry at my church. I taught 5th grade Sunday school for the last couple of years now, and I've had the same helper. So I've got to see him grow through his last couple of years of high school.
Oh, cool.
And just see him really not grow up, but grow up a little bit more over these last couple of years, work and get mature and hang out with friends and things like that. And we've had that talk with girls a little bit a couple of times too, just kind of as bros and stuff. And I'm just like, you just gotta talk. He's like, but I'm like, you just gotta talk. Just open your mouth and speak, child.
Yeah.
It's really not that hard. But for you, I know you mentioned in some of the questions that I asked you, you come from a broken family, much like myself. Please, if you wouldn't mind, please share kind of what you mean by broken family, because I think we all have similar definitions of that, what it can look like or looks like for us. But what did that look like for you, and how has that impacted you into your adult life?
Okay. My definition of a cold family, of a broken family for me, would be my parents separated when I was 14. But the depth answer to that would be my parents separated at 14, but it was a 5-year ugly divorce that really showed me how not to do a relationship when I'm older.
So was it 9 to 14? Was that 5 years?
Yeah. Well, no.
Okay.
about 13 years old. Officially on paper, they were divorced at 14. But for the 4 years after that, it
Oh,
was
okay. It was just
selling a truck or a trailer to try and divvy everything up. But we all lived in the same house for the same time. It was not a good process. But it showed me how not to do a relationship. But it also left me out in left field going, I don't know how to do a healthy relationship now. So luckily I had some pretty important people come into my life when I was 19, 20, that said, hey, this wasn't your fault. You were a part of this, but you weren't a part of this. Let's show you how to do this. Let's heal from those things, and let's dig deep and try and rewire your brain into what a healthy relationship is. And in that process of digging deep and going, okay, what dad did here wasn't right, or what mom did here wasn't right, or they did this well and they did this well. You learn from it and then apply it to your own life. The awesome part about that was I was learning and healing in my life at a pretty deep level while going through my own relationships. I was dating people at the time, but also mentoring kids that were 15, 16 years old going, my dad just left, or my mom just cheated on my dad, or something like that. How do I go through this? And I literally had just and was going through the process at that time. So it was like learn, apply, learn, heal, apply, essentially. It was probably the hardest work I've had to do. And there's probably more layers to that healing in the future I have to do too. But for right now where I'm at, completely different than when I was 20, 21 years old.
definitely. And what are some of those changes that have changed for you since in that time frame? Some things that you've learned, areas you've grown in, areas that you've been able to heal essentially throughout this time frame.
I would almost say like I was raised in a very very strict Christian home. And because of that rigidity, there wasn't much freedom within the relationship. And at the time when I was young, I couldn't see that between my mom and dad. But now I'm older, I can see that now. So I think being able to have either spouse have the freedom to be able to do what they want to do with their life, but they're also there to complement each other. So you're going after this business or doing after ministry, stuff like that. I'm there to help you as best as I can, but also ground you at the same time to make sure you're okay. There wasn't much of that in my dad's and my mom's relationship, but also too, there wasn't a lot of like realness. Like it was always an image that my dad did fairly well financially. So we lived well. My sister and I were very good at athletics. So we did well in athletics when we were younger. And my mom traveled, taking us all over the place. So we looked like a very, very healthy, admirable Christian family when really we were very far from that. So living, probably the two biggest things is having a real relationship with Jesus within the family, and then also not putting up an image that was not true was probably some of the biggest things I took from it.
Makes sense. So I guess, how do I try to think of how I want to ask this, but what was your relationship with like your dad growing up until the divorce? And I'm not sure if I misheard you or not, but even post divorce, your parents still live together?
They did at the time. They don't anymore. No.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, but during that 5-year span, they were still living together but divorced.
Yeah.
Okay. How, if at all, how was your relationship with your dad growing up until the divorce, and then did it change after, and has it changed since into adulthood? So kind of breaking it up into those three different kind of areas.
Yeah. When I was younger, my dad worked out of town. So from probably a good 10 years out of the 14 years when the divorce started, out of those 10 years, my dad was maybe home for a month or two out of the year. Not very, we didn't see him very much at all. So then when he came back and he started his own business in town here, he tried to be the leader in in the family, which makes sense. That's biblical. There was such a separation between my mom and my dad at the time that it was hard to gel back together. So for my own relationship with my dad, it was not very much at all before the divorce. The divorce happened and it hurt it even more. There wasn't much of anything. Dad pushed church, he pushed religion, essentially, where in the midst of it, I'm trying to figure out who I am when I'm 14 years old. What am I doing? What does this world mean? What are like all those questions going around in your head at the time? So it was a push off. It's like, Dad, I don't like this. So it got worse. The relationship with my dad got worse. So then it was worse for a long time. The divorce happened. We all kind of grew up. By the time I was 20 years old, I moved out. And it kind of hit me when I was about 22 years old. Like, yeah, you know what? Things have passed now. Let's get to know my dad again. And we did a lot of healing together. It was not easy, that's for sure. There was a lot of tension there and a lot of one-sidedness to the story of divorce, because that's one thing a lot of people don't want to talk about. When you're in divorce, there's always two sides.
Mm-hmm.
Every birthday party, every Christmas party, everything like that. We're going to come to my side. Well, no, I'm going to do what I want to do. If I'm going to my girlfriend's Christmas, is because I'm going. I'm not saying it's because I don't like either party. I'm just going to this Christmas party or whatever it is. So the sad thing is that doesn't fade. I'm 30 now, and that still happens.
No, I 100% get that. I just experienced that this year. Because my family was being a bit unsupportive on a couple things, and it was my birthday, and I usually go over to the west side of the state in Washington and see them, and I was just like, I'm not feeling it. I'm just not, like, I just don't really want to be around them right now. Like, I just don't, kind of thing. Like, and so I did it, kind of thing. And then I heard about it, and I was just like, I'm just not even talking to whoever, whatever kind of thing. So, yeah, no, it doesn't stop. It definitely doesn't stop.
Yeah. So as far as my relationship with my dad right now, it's way better than it was. But we're more of like good friends right now. We're not like, we talk to each other. Like, it's Father's Day tomorrow. He lives out of town, so I'm going to call him up and wish him a great day and stuff like that. But I'm not going to go visit him because he's out of town. But that's just the way it is for right now. Yeah. So I would say out of a scale of 1 to 10, we're probably sitting at about 6 or 7, where before it used to be about a -20.
Hey, that's a lot of progress. You know, that's 26 points in the positive.
Yeah.
You know, that's a lot of steps forward, and those relationships are really hard. And personally, I relate in a sorts. My biological mother really wasn't around at all growing up. Still isn't around. Never met her grandchildren. Nothing like that. By my choice. I don't want her to. I don't want her around me. I don't want her around them. But has she ever tried to reach out? No. I'm not even sure if she's aware she has grandchildren between me and my brother. Neither of us talked to her really, because she just wasn't around. And it kind of took a different spin for me personally to when I was 15 or 16. And of course, her perspective of it is that my dad and I ambushed her, kind of thing, apparently, because we drove up to Seattle. She was visiting my grandma. I came up at the same time. We ambushed her, confronted her, however she wants to spin it, kind of thing. And I just wanted some kind of closure and clarity and to say my piece, kind of thing. I just wanted to say my part. I just wanted to say it and let it be known forevermore. That I don't want a relationship with you. You did a lot of damage, and I think I was like 16 at the time, 15 or 16. And in that moment, she told me, and I don't think she's ever really apologized or taken it back or went back on her word there, but you know, she said some pretty hurtful, nasty things along the lines of you know, I wish I never gave birth to you. I wish I would have made a different choice.
Sorry, buddy.
there's a reason why I didn't send you birthday present, all the hurtful stuff that she could when I was a teenager
Yeah.
and stuff. And it's fine today because that's more on her than it is on me. I've done my own work. I've worked through that on my own. But at the same time, it's hard to not have that connection with a parent.
Yeah.
And even taking those 26 steps forward, like that's a big deal, to where you even got to the point as adults to be good friends as adults, because that just leaves room for growth. You know,
Yeah.
you were at a -20. Look at how far you've come, kind of thing. Look at how far you're gonna go, and how much further you have to go. And it was the same for me and my dad. Like, my dad didn't come back into my life until I was 14.
Wow.
And that was, again, it does rain a lot of essence to the two sides of everything. There's always two sides to how things happen, how things went down.
Yeah.
And when you finally get to see both sides, then it changes things. It changes a lot of things. To where I saw my dad one way, and then I talk about it back on episode 100 when I had my dad on. We talked about those things and kind of how it all shook out, and we laugh about it now. You know, all these years later, 14, 15, 16 years later, however long it's been. And it's just different. It's just crazy to see the growth. Him and I talk all the time, random stuff, good stuff, bad stuff, good business, bad business, all the things in between. Like, he 100% came back in, and then he was like, has never left since.
Oh, good.
Kind of thing. And so it's only been upward and upward and upward with him and I. So it's been really cool. But there's definitely two sides there. And I think it's important for everyone to be open to both sides of the stories. In a situation like these, to understand the who did what and why, and understand both parties why in all of it.
There's always one side, and then truth in the middle.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, and then kind of taking it from there and moving on.
That's awesome.
And then being able to move on, which is hard. I mean, I'm sure it's been hard over the last 10 years with your dad to make those steps.
Yeah, it's been a hell of a challenge, that's for sure.
So what kind of things have you guys done personally, not personally, but like, what kind of things have you guys done that have helped your guys' relationship kind of get back from the negative into the positive?
I kind of went and dove fully in, and I went and lived with him. I lived with him for 3 years, and I was living my life, he was living his life, and it was kind of like, hey, it's kind of forcefully, we got to figure this out. I was in university at the time, so wound up being well financially that I could live with him. And he was working a lot, but he was in town. But I had a friend of mine who came into my life when I was 20 years old, who helped reshape how I walk with God and how I have a relationship with God. So it brought up a lot of questions that I would ask my dad about. But in that process, you're digging deep into, okay, what happened here? I believe this. Is this what happened? Or is this your perspective, or how you thought it happened in your brain? Or, trauma is a big thing when sometimes trauma is so hurtful, your brain doesn't want to look at it anymore. And then there's memories you don't remember. So we would sit down, all three of us, and dad would say a situation. And this girl who turned into kind of like my mom 2.0, she was phenomenal. She knew the whole story too. So my dad would say one thing, I would say what I thought was what happened in that time or that situation. And then she would say what really happened, because she knew the whole story. She knew my mom well too. So it was eye-opening, but also it's like a lot of tension. You're rubbing. There's a lot of friction there going, well, this is the way it was. No, well, this is the way it was. But we were humble enough to meet in middle ground with a lot of things. Maybe not everything. There's still some things that he wished I did, and some things I wished he would do. But it was kind of, we came to a point of forgiveness, and hey, I did some things, I apologize. And he did some things, he apologized. And we kind of met in the middle. Are we perfect? No. but we have come a long way in that process. But it was a lot of uncomfortable conversations. That's what it was.
Yeah. And there's something important with those uncomfortable conversations, especially as you get older. Um, and that's one thing that in my field that I work in, so I work in mental health, I work with youth and families, helping them fix their issues, more or less.
Yeah.
Hold on, I'm processing this thought. We have to have hard conversations sometimes, and tough conversations, uncomfortable conversations. Sometimes we have to have those conversations with ourselves. Sometimes we have to have them with other people. I'll tell you, parents don't like having to have a hard conversation about themselves, about what they're doing, not doing, or what they're doing wrong or versus right, kind of thing. So how do you, in what you do with youth ministry, how do you encourage like the youth that you work with to like have these hard conversations, to talk, and to encourage them to not be afraid to have them?
Yeah, afraid is the perfect word to use because I think we use anxiety too much.
Yeah, anxiety's kind of just become just like a throw around term. Technically it's still clinical in essence, but it's kind of become like an everyday term, which is more bad than it is good, essentially.
Yeah,
So
I agree. No, I had someone ask me, it was that gal actually, her name was Heidi, asked me what kind of man do I want to be when I was 21 years old. And it made me think a lot, going, okay, the man I want to be strong, I want to be a pillar in my family, but I also want to be a leader. I want to be soft enough to listen, but also stern enough to be like, hey, this is not good for me or good for you or whatever. I want to be an honoring and an honorable man, to be leading something, to be a part of. So it made me go, okay, that means I got some hard work to do. So when I ask kids, I'm going through a situation and they don't know how to handle it, I kind of always ask them first, even if it's an adult too, do you want to get over this? Do you want to step through this? Even Jesus said that to the guy, do you want to be healed? And of course, Jesus already knows he wants to be healed. But it's just, do you actually want to? If you want to sit and meddle in this, then you can sit and meddle in this. But so then whatever their answer is kind of the next move. But if they say yes, then okay, well, we got some work to do. We had to line up maybe some accountability, or if it's a hard conversation, I'll be praying for you. And if there's ideas that you have going around your head or thoughts, throw them at me and see if maybe I can give you a different perspective or something, just to help you. I'm not going to tell you what to think. You're going to learn how to think, but I want you to go in with a lot of grace if there's hard conversations. But those hard conversations are going to make it easier for when they're married in their lives down the road, when they have board meetings with business people, when they have investors, or they're leading their kids and stuff like that. So you might as well do it now instead of later. But some kids grab a hold of that and run with it. Not all of them do, though.
true. Learn it now, before you need it later. I actually talked about this with someone else recently on the podcast, but there's like if some kids want it, they'll go and get it, kind of thing. Like some kids will naturally have that inclination to be successful, to want to be successful, but it's few and far between. I would say it's an 80-20 rule. 20% of kids have that like natural like dog in them, as the kids say, that they're going to go and get it, that they want it, that they want to get after it, that they want to be successful. But the rest of the 80% just kind of don't want to like be successful, because they think success is just going to come to them. It's just naturally going to come. But it's not going to happen, faith without works is dead. And so if you're not working at it, it's dead, essentially. If you're not putting in your effort into it, how are you going to be successful? Success isn't just going to come. Of course, you can be uber fortunate and have a nice trust fund and things like that, and be comfortable and have your bills paid for and all that fun stuff. Of course, those are those really rare 1-2% situations that do happen. and they can happen, kind of thing.
Yeah.
But majority, 80%, don't want to be successful. So how, from what you do within youth ministry, how do you encourage them to, I guess, to put that work into their faith so it's not dead, so it thrives, so it grows, so it turns into something successful that can carry them throughout their teenage years and into their adulthood?
It's a very good question. I do ask them that question, what kind of man they want to be or woman they want to be, but also, like let's use athletes, for example. There's people that they marvel at athletes, but they don't look at the process of how that athlete became an Olympic gold medalist or a NFL player, NHL player, something like that. So I'm a Canadian boy, so there's a lot of hockey where I am. So you get a lot of kids going, I want to make the NHL. I want to work hard. I want to do this. Okay, cool. Well, set up a process and figure it out, and let's do it. And they'll set up a process, but then not start. And that's where I'll go, okay, well, why? Why do you not want to? What's not motivating you? What's not doing this? And sometimes if you pick at it long enough, there'll be something that maybe someone influential in them said, you're not enough, or you're never going to do that. Why are you going after that? And it's just a little word, enough of them to go, yeah, maybe I'm not capable of doing this. So it's almost like you're their number one cheerleader, but you're also their coach at the same time, going, hey, you're going to get speed bumps. Speed bumps just confirm that you're in the right place at the right time. So keep going. Doesn't mean as soon as you get scared, you stop, because you don't do that. You're not called to stop when you're scared. God is not the God of fear. He's not the God of confusion either, but he's also a very practical God. So go after something and try it. Does not mean your life turns into performance-based. Your life is full of grace, but your life is full of grace for the process of the calling God's got on your life, not just your own ambition. So it's funneling those two things, going, okay, where do I want to go? And that's where I want to go, not where mom and dad want me to go. And how do I get there? Is that where God's calling me to be? And let's put the gas down and go do it. Or I'm going to figure out where else I'm going, kind of thing. It's almost like gears. Like I like to use that example of gears in a manual car. You got to find a next gear. If not, you're going to stay where you are. Well, God loves you, and he's going to loves you where you're at, but he's not going to keep you there either. He's going to keep growing you into the next spot. But you also have to find that gear and follow him. If you're not going to find that gear, he will be glad to leave you there, and he'll love you where you're at.
Right.
But you're not called to be comfortable either. So it's a catch-22.
Yeah, like he'll literally put your hand on the stick to shift, but he won't shift it for you.
Yeah.
He'll have it ready. He'll have it oiled up. He'll have it ready to roar, and he'll put your hand on it, on the stick to put it. He'll move your foot onto the clutch too if he has to.
Yeah.
Like he will put you right in the position you need to be, but he won't do the action for you, kind of thing. And I think you hit it really well on the head there, to kind of also encompass like what fatherhood is at the same time.
Yeah.
It's being the biggest cheerleader while also being the coach at the same time.
Yeah.
Playing that dual role, doing both at the same time to make sure that your kids are, they're supported, they're loved, they have the confidence to keep trying, they have their self-esteem being built up. Super important, especially for raising daughters like myself. So it's super important. It's important for both boys and for girls.
For sure.
But more so for girls with their fathers. But what was I saying? But making sure that you're also their coach, and you guide them, and you show them, and you teach them, and you lead them along the way. Correct their mistakes to show them the right way, to correct their habits, their routines, their everything in between, just to make sure that they are successful in what they do.
Yeah.
So you can cheer on their success while also helping them take it to that next level of success.
Yeah.
All pretty much encompasses fatherhood in a nutshell.
Yeah.
Not a nutshell, but it's a piece of the shell, if you will.
Yeah.
But it's a very tough nut to crack. At the same time, it's a very thick layered shell.
Oh, for sure.
So let me see here. I guess for you, kind of mentioning that your dad, he was gone a lot. He wasn't there. Who were those male influences on you? Who were those good men, those masculine men that helped like kind of guide you through those like formative years, grade school, middle school, into high school,
Yeah.
and through high school into adulthood?
I was blessed to have some phenomenal coaches when I played hockey when I was younger that knew stuff that was going on between my parents. And in that process too, you gotta earn your way to make a team. You gotta earn your way to play well and do well with the team. So there was a little bit of extra grace that I had, but also a lot of push going, Tice, that wasn't the smartest. What are you doing? Or that was really good job, good thinking there. And it was just enough athletic wise that I could apply that in my own life. The only bad part was there was not a lot of respect for having a healthy relationship. It was all athletics and how can I fulfill my own ambition through those coaches. And they did really well. They helped me how to look at perseverance in a healthy way, how to be resilient, how to work hard, and how to work hard. But then once you have made the opportunity, once you've made the team or something, that's when the actual work begins. Now there's more to it. It's kind of like Garth Brooks said it perfectly in one of his documentaries. It's like it's a catch-22. He said, "Now I made the team. Now I got work to do." He said, "I'd got his record label. Now I actually got to put out 12 songs or something like that." For the same thing. So sports and coaches were huge for me at that time. And then when I got back into church and youth ministry, my uncle came into my life, who was just a pillar of a man. There's a few times there where I was partying, I was being the typical hockey player, athlete guy, and I would go to church and I'd go hang out with him, and he knew I was a little hungover, not super healthy, but he'd look at me and go, "Hey, I'm proud of you." And he'd do that enough that I would clean up my life, and I did clean up my life. And then I had some important women actually come into my life that helped show me, hey, this is what a healthy relationship is. This is probably what you should be doing. This is what healthy girls are looking for. And then with the mix of my uncle, it grew extremely healthy, going, I can see how they're doing things in their relationship, and I can see how the man is in that relationship, and how I could take some of those things and apply them in my life, but also look at some of the heal from that, and then apply it for my own relationships. So I had some pretty phenomenal coaches and my uncle, and some pretty strong women come into my life that, helped me become the man I am. That's for sure.
I like it. And how important is it for young men to have good masculine role models in their life outside, even if their dad is involved or whatnot, is a strong pillar? How important is it for young men to have those additional influences?
Huge. I just listened to a sermon by Chris Valentin there in Bethel, and he was talking about how for prisons in the U.S. that are male prisons, not female prisons, but male prisons in general, he said, I was just talking about men, he said 80% of them that are in there have no fathers, or their father was not around. So they don't know what a healthy form of discipline is. So that's huge. But also to have that manly leader, like why is it that us that are 30 or 25 or 55 still look for their mom or dad to say, I'm proud of you? There's something that clicks, that I need that, I want that. And maybe they don't need to say it every 2 seconds, because I think it would wear off. But if they were to say it when big moments happen in your life, that you have a kid, you buy a house together, you get married, you get some big things in your life that are huge, and they walk up and give you a hug, and like, I'm so proud of you. Boom. Those are things that kids will not forget, adults won't forget. So as far as being how important a father is in their lives are huge. The bigger part to this too, how you view your father is how you're going to view the Heavenly Father. It's like a lens. Well, if you're a 15, 16-year-old kid and you have a terrible relationship with your dad right now, and then you turn 26 years old and you're trying to have a relationship with your dad then, but also trying to have a relationship with the Heavenly Father, you're going to be looking at the Heavenly Father through the lens of your dad, your biological dad, which is really hard because you have to heal that relationship between your dad, because it's going to affect the other relationship, which is sad because the Heavenly Father is not that person. He's not. Yeah, we're all created in the image of God, but we also have grace and sanctification to grow and become more like Jesus in that process. And we're not all good at that. We're all still sinners. So for that to heal takes a lot of maturity, and your parents don't really get a practice run, that's for sure. So for a kid who's 15, 16 years old that doesn't have a dad in their life, I would almost say have some grace, but also have some important mentors in your life. You have youth leaders that are men that love you, that want the best for you, and ask your dad questions. Pursue a relationship with your dad, but then if you have uncles, ask them. If you have your grandfathers, I wish my grandpa passed away when I was 11 years old, I think it was, or 12 years old. And I wish I had him right now, because there'd be so many questions I could ask him. How did you raise 3 kids? How did you start a business with a farm? How did you do all these things? How did you keep God first and all of that? There's so many questions I'd love to ask him. And while you're young, you're not thinking of that. You're having fun, you're goofing around. What's what you should be doing. But if you're wanting that relationship of a fatherly man in your life, then pursue it. Ask, go shoot some guns with dad or something. Go hunting with dad, or take grandpa for coffee and watch a football game with them together. Like, just pick their brain. That's hard for a 16-year-old to do, that is, but it is very possible to do.
100%. Very possible. And it's important to do those things. And I think we all, myself included, we take our grandparents for granted. We think they're old and they don't know nothing. And, there's a lot of value that grandparents can add to your life as your parents, especially as you get older, showing that relationship. And then also, for your parents as a father, like myself, like, I really encourage like my dad to try to come up to see his grandchildren, to be involved, and to like talk to them, stuff like that. Like, I'll go in, do something, and like, let's say I have one in the car and I have to go pick up the other one from something. Well, if I'm talking to him on the phone, like on the Bluetooth, I'm like, hey, just talk to the kid real quick. I'm gonna go inside. He goes, okay, kind of thing. But his granddaughters, they love him. It's really cool to see. It's a cool dynamic. Very blessed that my dad's like super young. My dad's like 51 years old this year. So he's super young. We both had our kids. We both had kids really young. Pretty much exactly 21 years to 21 years
Cool.
apart. His mom had him at 21. He had me at 21, and then I had my first daughter at a couple months past 21. So
Cool.
I was just barely 22. So I messed it all up, as he says, but it's neither here nor there. I was still basically 21. I felt like it, but let's see.
Wow.
But no, super important. Don't take your grandparents for granted, and to learn, go and ask. You can never learn if you don't ask.
Yeah.
And you got to ask those questions, and have those conversations. Because trust me, if there's any like young men listening to this right now, young fathers who are early 20s, you still have your grandparents around. You're blessed enough to have that. Mine passed away when I was really young. Go and talk to them. Encourage your dad, if you have children, encourage your dad to have a relationship with his grandchildren. Something that they will love and enjoy and get massive benefit from.
Yeah.
As they grow. Uncles, same thing. Additional male influences doesn't hurt. Additional support networks, aunts, uncles, grandparents, those things can't hurt at all. So definitely encourage those relationships. With yourself, because you never know when it might be just the relationship that you need at any given time.
Yeah.
Super important. But
Yeah, I totally agree with you.
let's see. The last thing I kind of want to hit on here, and I'm trying to read through like my mic boom on my other screen, so it's like throwing me off. But it's helping me like focus on like what I want to say. For you, I guess we'll end on this conversation here. So before we jump into this conversation, this last little tidbit right here, I do just want to close us out with our closing sponsor of the podcast, the June app, Joon. You can find the direct listener link down in the description of this episode, wherever you're listening. They're all the same description on every single platform. And June app is fantastic. If you have children that struggle with habits, routine, behaviors, morning, after school, evening routine, cleaning up routine, chores, anything like that, guess what? June integrates a video game into helping create and build healthy habits. If you've been a listener of the show for a long time, you know how much I love June. Literally, when you search on YouTube, you see a couple videos about the June app, and then boom, it's the podcast right there under them. So we're a big supporter. We're a big proponent of what the June app does. What it does is it lets you as a parent, on the parent side of the app, there's two sides of the app. There's the kid side and the parent side, which is really cool. Parent side, you go in and you create the habits and routines you want your kids to build. You can break it down in the micro steps. You can take it as bigger steps. You can leave it open-ended for steps, and you get to assign a coin value to those things. So there's an instant kind of reward, little dopamine hit. And then from there, you go in and your kids will go on their side of the app. They'll play a game. They'll click that they did the things that they're supposed to do. And then they'll send it back to you for verification. Guess what? If you then as a parent, you go check, you verify, it's not done, it's done poorly, it's not done up to standard, you didn't like what you got, then guess what? You can then have a conversation with your child about, hey, why is your room only kind of halfway clean? Maybe it's incorporating spiritual things into it. Maybe it's Bible reading and they just click that they read kind of thing. And you ask them, so what'd you read? You get one of those, they probably just clicked it, didn't do it kind of thing. And so you're able to go back and have that conversation and be like, hey, what'd you learn today? What'd you do? Learning and integrating those things, having that conversation, those open, ongoing conversations with your children are so important, especially about the little things. So that's what June brings to the table, and it's fantastic. Again, direct link to listeners is in the description of the episode, and you can then try the app for free. You can try it for free on a free trial with the code, with the link. And then from there, if you do love it, you can use code YNGDAD to save you some money off your annual subscription. So that's our closing message from our sponsors. For you, and one of the questions I asked you, you mentioned that being indecisive has led you on some different paths in your life. Why is indecisiveness something that is important to you?
Wow, I find it important because I think we love to, well, for myself, I love to plan. When I was younger, I loved to plan. I'd have my whole life planned out and then be afraid of failure. So I would never do it, or afraid of the process, or that's going to be a lot more work than I thought, and I just wouldn't do it. But yet I'm a very highly motivated person. I can get very narrow-minded and I can just go for it. So I found the indecisiveness going, okay, if I'm afraid of failure, that's a reflection of me and also a person I don't want to be. So let's dive out and go do it anyway. And I've found that usually where I place my first foot or my first thought towards an opportunity or a situation, if my first thought is fear, that's probably where I need to be. If I'm scared to make an action, it's probably the action I need to do. If it's if it's something like I don't want to take out this person for coffee, it's probably something I need to do. So the indecisiveness, as in the hesitation before I make a decision, just make the decision and go for it. And then in the process, be willing to hit the speed bumps and not give up through that process. The amount of kids, but also leaders and people that are trying to go after what God's got in their life that hit a speed bump or they get afraid or something like that and they go, oh, this is not where God wants me to be. To know, if anything, that's exactly where God wants you to be. The speed bump is going to show some character, some things you can work on within the process of getting to a hopeful destination, because hope is just a destination. We're hoping for something, right? So I challenge kids all the time. What do you want to do with your life? Oh, I want to go to university. Have you applied? No? Well, go do it. I want to get into working out at the gym and go do it. Go try it. And then if you're not getting results, learn from it, reanalyze it. My mom was a very strong woman. She still is a very strong woman. But she used to say it as, it's kind of like a hockey fight, she'd say, which is kind of funny because my mom didn't know much about hockey at the time. But she said, if you're getting in a fight and someone hits you and you hit back but you miss, what do? You already have your hand coming back already, but you're reanalyzing and then you're going back at them. Said, you don't come back here and then stop, because then that guy's going to keep running at you. Come back, reanalyze, maybe I'm going to move my hand over here, or I'm going to move first and then go at it. Same thing with life. You hit a bump in relationship, a bump in business. Take a second, reanalyze, and if it's smart to go back into it, go do it. Relationships is different. It's a little bit different. If there's abuse and stuff like that, obviously don't. But if it's a hiccup in something, reanalyze it, talk about it, communicate, and then go do it. Business, okay, I learned from it, but fail forward. Don't fail and stop. I assume a lot of people have heard it before, but Michael Jordan said it a million times. He's like, I missed in his career, during his time, he missed the most shots he ever took, ever. Like, out of all the players during that time, he missed the most shots, but yet he's regarded as my favorite, best ever. But yeah,
you have a Kobe jersey hanging behind you.
I love Kobe too. So you just keep going, you keep pushing, and God will reward it, or he has a really good way of steering you where he wants you to go.
100%. And it's all about taking those steps and, being in the mindset of moving forward.
Mm-hmm.
There's this really great Will Smith motivational video that's on YouTube. And part of it is that he talks about how the best things in life are on the other side of fear, are on the other side of terror. Why were you afraid in your bed the night before you were going to go skydiving?
Yeah.
And then you were afraid in the plane, and then you missed out on the experience, kind of thing.
Yeah.
Why were you afraid of that thing? Why were you letting that bother you so much? Why were you letting that bother you? Because then you look back and you had such a good, fun experience that it wasn't worth it. The fear wasn't worth it in the first place. And the best things in life are on the other side of that fear. Like, this fear is like this big, darkening black wall.
Yeah.
It's like in the movies when it's depicted where there's just a door and there's like some light, a tiny little sliver of light, not enough. You have no clue what's over there, but you're like just facing this dark, dark wall. It's just you and this door.
Yeah.
Like, that's fear. That's encompassing fear. Like, you're in the dark room. It's completely pitch black. It's blacked out. There's just a door. And you have to make the choice to either stay in that room or open that door. But you have no clue what's on the other side of that door. But what is on the other side of that door is nothing but the best things are on the other side of fear.
Yeah. I totally agree with that. You don't know until you try. Go do it.
Yeah, 100%. So I guess we'll wrap up here. Tyson, this has been a great conversation. I really appreciate it. I think that's a great place to leave us off here.
Yeah.
Please tell the people where they can follow you, learn more about the work that you do, and so on.
Yeah. If you want more info, I have my Instagram at Modern Mindset Mentor, and I have a bio in there with a link that you can click on some of the products that I have. I have a course and a mentorship program, and also some one-on-one coaching if you want to learn how to brand yourself. But reach out and say hi. I'm very sociable. I'd love to talk and meet you guys and build some new relationships. Thank you very much for having me on here too.
Of course. And of course, thank you to our listeners for tuning in today. Remember to show your love for the podcast, or show your love for the show, by subscribing to the newsletter, liking, subscribing, leaving 5 stars, following, leaving reviews, all those things to show your love for the podcast.
Yeah.
It helps tremendously and helps more than you know. And I really hope you enjoyed your snack, your juice box, and keep doing that dad thing. Until I talk to you next time.